Hey guys, so today I'm gonna show you how to wire Dakota Digital SGI 5E or 100BT into an RSX that has a different transmission. So say the 04 VSS does not send properly to the 06 VSS, therefore you can't get any speed on your Speedo or your cluster. So right now I have a 2006 RSX Type S with the 2006 ECU and the engine harness, but my engine is a K28-2, so that's from an 04, both engine and transmission. So basically the way this works is the 06 uses high to high from the transmission, and the 04 uses low to low. So the reason why you're not getting a speedometer or a speedometer reading is because your frequency is not going from low to high, it's sending from low to low, and it's not, the ECU is not reading it. So the Dakota Digital is gonna switch up your frequency from low to high. And yeah, so basically what you need to do is you need to know where the VSS is located, which is just under the intake, I think. Yeah, just under the intake. And the 04 VSS, which is what I need since I have a 04 engine, the pins that go with it is pin 1, 2, and 3, and that's the ground, voltage, and signal. And for the 06 VSS, it's the voltage, signal, and ground. So what I needed to do, if I need to work on the 04, but for your case, you'd probably follow this if you're working on the 06. If you have a Z1 transmission in a 04 body or shell. So basically I need to repin my VSS into this harness. So instead of the signal, which is blue, going to the middle, I will put it at pin 3, and the voltage, which is yellow red for the 06 and yellow black I think for the 04, goes to the middle, and the ground, which is green white for the 06, and I think the black, yeah, the black on the 04 goes to pin 1. So I need to follow this for my case. And then to get everything wired up, there's two methods that I could show you. I don't know if both will work, but I went with method 1 because that's the first thing I tried. So basically I needed to run a wire. Instead of connecting this to the engine harness, you just cut it off, add a new wire, and run it through your firewall into the ECU. So I'll show you more about that. But before we get into that, you need the ECU plug A to get everything working, which is the one on the very right of the ECU, and I think it's gray. So the pins you need are pins 3, 4, and 18. So pin 3, you wire that up, you add another wire into that, and you put it onto the Dakota Digital ignition. And then for pin 4, you add another wire to that and you ground it into the Dakota Digital. But you could also just find your own ground if you don't want to do that. And for the pin 18, which is blue, that's the signal wire, which is connected to this and this harness. So this signal wire is A18. So basically there's two methods. For the first method, I repin my VSS connector from 06 to 04, 04 to 06, or 06 to 04. Depends on which one you're working on. And then what I did was I followed this here, since I had a 04 trans. So my green white was on the very left of the harness, which is pin 1. Yellow red is in the middle, which is power, and signal is the blue. So I took another wire, right? Take signal wire and connect it to the Dakota Digital input. So basically, say this is a whole wire, I cut this off, meaning this wire is dead, it's not working. So I closed this wire off, I added another wire all the way into the firewall right here, and I put it onto the Dakota Digital input. And then, give me a second, guys. For my other one. All right. So for the transmission wire to the input, right? since the wire on A18 is dead, just cut that off. And the wire closer to the harness of the ECU, connect the wire going to the ECU harness into output 4. So the wire closest to the ECU, the one that's plugging into the harness, that's the one that's working. So it's connected to the ECU. You wire that up and you put it into output 4. So the transmission wire, the transmission VSS wire goes into the input, right? From here all the way to the input. And then there's another wire, the blue wire, that's going from this all the way to the ECU side. That's dead wire. So you just connect that into the input and then connect the ECU. You cut the ECU wire A18, and the one connecting to the ECU, you wire that up and you extend that into the output 4. And that should be everything. It's honestly that easy. I've been like busting my ass for a year. There's barely there's tutorials online, but I want to go more in depth in it. But method 2 is, first, of course, you repin your VSS. And this is the one where you do not wire anything into the firewall. Everything is in the ECU. You're working on it on the ECU. So instead of doing this, you cut this wire, this and that, that's nothing. You just don't do that. So basically the way method 2 works is you repin the VSS into what you need, right? And everything's connected to one harness. So ignore that. Everything's just going right, you know, connect to the ECU and shit. But same thing, you cut the wire A18 for the 06, which is blue. And then the wires that's coming from the engine in the car, that's the one you connect into input. And the same thing with the ECU, the one connecting to the ECU, that's the one you put on output 4 onto your Dakota digital. And yeah, if you should know how to power up your Dakota. Follow this thing right here, ignition ground. But that's basically it. And then there's a note though, when you're calibrating your Dakota digital, you're not going to get any readings to the speedometer, which can mess. I mean, if you don't know what you're just like me, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how it worked. I was confused why I wasn't getting anything on my speedometer. But I set my number to, this is making a new thing right here. So I set my number to 1.8. That's my number right there to get an almost accurate reading. I set that number into 1.8, and yeah, so basically the way you calibrate is just, I'll show you in the car actually, but that's basically it. You could rewatch the video if you don't understand anything, comment. But yeah, it was fucking a whole year of my life. What a disaster. I didn't know what to do. I called Honda, talked to mechanics. They say it couldn't be done, but it can be done, and that's how you do it. I'll show y'all in the car. Yeah.